Video for the Ultimate Fighter 25 finale. I'm sorry this stuff is coming out late. I was just waiting for the last episode of the Ultimate Fighter because the card wasn't finalized yet. I know there's 2 cards this weekend, so the other video for UFC 213 is coming out right after this. So let's get started with this card. The first fight is Tecia Torres versus Julian Lima. To me, they're both strikers, but Tecia Torres is just way better. I think that Tecia Torres also has better grappling overall and wrestling. I think she's going to do what she always does, and she's going to get a pretty dominant 30-27 decision win for Tecia Torres. Next is Gray Maynard versus Ishihara Teruto. And Ishihara Teruto, to me, he's much closer to his prime. His striking is really good. I think his biggest weakness is just his conditioning isn't great, but I think because he's working at Alpha Male, that's going to get better. Gray Maynard, to me, hasn't looked good in a really long time. I think that his striking's not as good, and his wrestling isn't as good. I think that he's kind of shot at this point, and I think Teruto's eventually going to land a knockout shot and probably win the first round by KO. Next is Jessica Eye versus Aspen Ladd. And Aspen looks like a decent prospect, but I think Jessica Eye has just fought too many good people at this point. I think they're trying to give Jessica Eye an easy win, in my honest opinion, because they like her. I don't know why. Her record's like 1-4 in the UFC, but I just think Eye is going to be able to stuff takedowns and win a pretty one-sided decision with her boxing. Next is James Krause versus Tom Galicchio, and James Krause looked really good on this season, but if you watch the last episode, I think that he was just a little too worn out going to that fight with Jesse Taylor. I still think Jesse Taylor was going to win this season. I thought he was the best fighter this season, but James Krause has had a lot of wars, but in general, for this fight, I think that Tom Galicchio, he's really one-dimensional. It's just take down guys and try to take their back. I think that James Krause has got decent takedown defense. His jiu-jitsu is really good. I think his striking is way better, and I think his conditioning is way better. I think that James Krause is just going to kind of weather the early storm, and then once Tom starts to slow down, I think James Krause is going to pick him apart. And I think somewhere in the second round, James Krause is going to win by either knockout or submission. Next is Angela Hill versus Ashley Yoder. This is basically striker versus grappler, and I think Angela Hill has gotten really good with her takedown defense, and her striking's always been really good. So I think she's going to be able to keep this fight standing and eventually win by knockout. Angela Hill's going to win by KO. Next, we got Jordan Johnson versus Marcel Fortuna, and Jordan Johnson's a really good wrestler, but that's about it. I don't think he's super impressive, in my opinion. I think that he's just a good wrestler. To me, Marcel Fortuna, he's a good jiu-jitsu guy, and his striking looks like it's getting better every fight. I think that he definitely has power in his hands. I also think he's going to be the bigger guy. I think that if he can kind of stuff the takedowns and make this a striking match, Marcel Fortuna should be able to win, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think Marcel Fortuna is eventually going to land a big punch and win by knockout. Next, we got Brad Tavares versus Elias Theodorou. And to me, these two guys have the exact same style. It's just Brad Tavares has been finished a couple times. He's been in more wars. Elias Theodorou is a bit younger and earlier in his career, but I think Brad Tavares took some time off and he looked good in his last fight. I think Brad Tavares mixes up the punches and kicks better than Elias does. I think Elias relies a lot on just the kicks. They both have good offensive and defensive wrestling, and I think this fight's going to be really close. I think it's going to be kind of boring, but I think that Brad Tavares is going to edge out a decision and probably win like a very, very close split decision for Tavares. Next is Jared Cornier versus Nick. I don't know how to say this guy's last name, but Nick is a super late replacement. He's taking this fight in like 10 days. He looks like he's like a boxer, wrestler kind of guy, and he just doesn't. I don't know much about him because he's taking this fight on such short notice. Jared Cornier, on the other hand, I know a lot. He's really good. He's got good boxing, pretty good takedown defense, and I think he's going to be able to get this done. I think Jared Cornier just had way too much time to prepare for this fight, and I think he's going to win by knockout, probably in the first or second round. Next is Mark DeCasey versus Gerard Close. And Gerard Close looks like a good boxer with some good takedown defense, but I think Mark DeCasey is just too athletic for him. I think he's also a lot faster. I think Mark DeCasey is just going to be able to light this guy up throughout the fight and eventually win by knockout or just win a decision. So, like I said, I got DeCasey. Next, we got Diego Lima versus Jesse Taylor, and to me, I think Jesse Taylor should be able to dominate this fight, but his biggest weakness has always been really good jiu-jitsu black belts, and that's what Diego Lima is. I mean, people pump him up as the striker, but really what his base is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Most of his wins are submission wins, and, I think Jesse Taylor should be able to win this fight, but you never know. He needs to mind his P's and Q's. And that was my biggest thing when he was fighting, what's it called, James Krause on the finale. I thought that there was a possibility Krause could catch him just because he's always been kind of shitty at leaving his arms in there, especially arm bars. I don't know why, but Jesse Taylor's just really susceptible to arm bars. Most of his losses are arm bar losses. And that, in my opinion, is Diego's best submission. But as long as he, like I said, he just pays attention, he should be able to win this fight. He's way bigger. His wrestling's a lot better. And I think that Diego Lima, his striking's good, but I don't think he can handle the size and power of Jesse Taylor. And I think Jesse Taylor's going to win a decision or maybe get a TKO with ground and pound. Finally, we got the main event, and it's Michael Johnson versus Justin Gaethje. And in my opinion, Justin Gaethje just needs to mix this up. I think that Michael Johnson can win this fight. I think that Michael Johnson's faster and his striking is a bit more clean. But Justin Gaethje, I think that, Michael Johnson's got a big weakness. I think that he's not great at checking leg kicks. I also think that if you can take him down, he's not that great at getting back up. And I think Justin Gaethje, his biggest problem is he doesn't mix shit well together super well. He kind of just brawls with his hands or will just throw leg kicks or just kind of shoot for takedowns here and there. He needs to just be able to mix this up. If he can mix this up and just throw kicks with his strikes or shoot for takedowns when he needs to, he should be able to win this fight. I think that he's the more explosive fighter and the more powerful fighter in general. I also think his wrestling's better. He just needs to be able to mix it up and eventually get this fight to the ground when he needs to and throw leg kicks when he needs to. And I'm hoping he's made improvements because, like I said, I think Justin Gaethje is a top 5 guy. And that's why I think that he's probably going to win the first round or lose the first round or two, because Michael Johnson's speed's going to be heavy in his favor. But I think Gaethje's got the better conditioning and that constant forward pressure that he likes to use. He's eventually going to wear Michael Johnson down and eventually get him down to the ground and win by TKO. So I got Justin Gaethje by 4th round TKO. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.